Warning, this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners. Due to the graphic nature, listener discretion is advised. Welcome from wherever you are. This is the Demon Inside podcast. I am your host, John Venom. If you would like to review another episode of the Demon Inside, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and any podcast platform. You can also find us on YouTube and on our website, thedemoninside.podcast.transistor.fm. And please don't forget to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. A new episode will come out once a week. Hello, my Demon Insiders, and welcome back to the Demon Inside. I'm your host, John Venom, and today we are going to be talking about the Demon Inside, Hope Marie Orwick, and Elyse Marcel Collin. Last week, we talked about Jeanette Michelle Hoss, and this was in 2007 in Augusta, Georgia, and she stabbed her 2 kids in the bathroom of a convenience store. Now, an hour away from there is Louisville, Kentucky. And a year later in Louisville, Kentucky, Hope Orwick killed her 2 children. Then Deborah Jeter, who I did a podcast on a while back, and Deborah Jeter is in season 1, and I'm going to put a link to it at the bottom so that you can recap that one again. And then we're going to do Elyse Marcel Collin. Now, these are probably cases that you've never heard of. And what I'm doing is I'm following a pattern that goes from Augusta, Georgia with Jeanette, then an hour away to Louisville, Kentucky with Hope Orwick, then to Hillsborough, Texas with Deborah Jeter, and then finally here in my hometown of San Antonio, Texas, Elyse Marcel Collin. We're going to get to all that, but let's go ahead and start with Hope Orwick. Now, these cases, since they were kind of not popularized or anything by the media, it's very hard to find anything, especially since they happened in 2008. The next one was in 2009, and the following one, Elyse Marcel Collin, happened in 2010. So it's happening every year where a mother kills 2 kids. And we're going to go ahead and go through Hope. Now, Hope lived at the time. She was born in 1973, and she was married to Christopher Orwick, and they had 2 daughters at the time of this incident. They had Emily, who was 9, and Lindsay, who was 8. In 2008, on October 6th, she killed her 2 kids, stabbing them to death, and then she shot herself in the head. Now, nobody understood why this happened. And there was no note like saying suicide, or there was no video, no nothing. They ended up finding her on a Monday when relatives were worried, and they went to go and look for them. So 35-year-old Hope Orwick, let me give you a little bit of her background and what people said about her. She had 2 girls, and she was described as a role model mom. She was bringing her kids to school, going on field trips, volunteering for the PTA. She and her husband, Chris, put a website together for Lindsay. And I usually don't say the name of the victims, but this is important because Lindsay has a rare developmental disorder called Cri-du-chat syndrome. Now, for those that don't know what that is, there's another name for it. It's called cat's cry syndrome. So called because it is characterized at birth by a high-pitched cry that sounds like a cat's. Now, the syndrome can cause developmental disabilities and trouble eating and speaking. So in a 2004 interview that Hope did with the Courier Journal, she said this, that it was clear by the time Lindsay was 4 weeks old that something was wrong. She was distracted, crying too much, and not sleeping. After they visited a number of specialists and geneticists finally conducted a chromosome study. Now, Hope called the diagnosis overwhelming, but described it as a regimen of therapy, doctors, specialists that helped her daughter show progress by the age of 3. Now, according to Hope, and this is, I quote, and this is the special person that she was, she said this, and I quote, "Now, one smile from Lindsay can turn my darkest day bright," end quote. And that's what she told the newspapers. So Hope and her husband, Christopher, had worked with 5P Society in California, which is a support group for parents of children with Lindsay's condition. And they also built a website that was created to document and share information regarding Lindsay with that rare developmental disorder. But the site is currently not active. So now in 2005, Christopher Orwick, her husband, he took his own life at his job. He worked as an employee. He was at Miners Electric Company, and he hung himself at work. And this had a massive effect on Hope and her 2 girls. Now Hope was a single mother. The only reason I'm talking about that is because this is one of the reasons why they think that she did what she did, because it was too much for her. Having a child with disabilities, doing everything on your own, not being able to help it, or anybody help her. But I don't think that's what it was. This woman seems very strong. And here's the thing, the killings confused many people in the neighborhood, and they saw her and the girls every day. A counselor at the girls' school, Wendy Anderson, described Hope Orwick as a volunteer and I quote, "just the mom you want supporting the school," end quote. And Emily as, and I quote, "the type of student you want 24 of," end quote. She also said the school staff saw Hope Orwick on Thursday, the last day of classes before the family was found dead. She says there was no signs, there was nothing that even looked odd. She said any single mom keeping children on their own can be a handful. Laura Castillo, executive director, called the newspapers of the deaths, and she said they were strange. She said, and I quote, "This was such a beautiful woman, such a beautiful family. I don't even know what to think about what happened," end quote. She said that to the Associated Press. Now, there was other people that have talked, like Sean Kennel noted, she was, and I quote, "she was always outgoing, very talkative. She would talk to us for an hour or 2 before we left. Sunday when Hope came to pick up Emily, she didn't talk. She just pulled up in the car. Emily got in and she left. I thought that was kind of strange," end quote. Now, here's what strikes me odd. And the police are trying to say that she was overwhelmed, but she was volunteering at the school. She had the PTA. She was doing all these things for her daughters. And so how is that somebody that is overwhelmed volunteering their time? Somebody overwhelmed doesn't volunteer their time. Nobody understood why she would do it. I looked into everything that I possibly could. I found her husband's suicide. I found a little bit of her history with the school and people that were saying that there's no way that she could have done this. They don't understand why. But there is no reason why. The police did their investigations, and they don't know why she did it. So now we jump to Deborah Jeter. Deborah Jeter, if you guys remember, is from season 1, episode 44 of my show. And if you get a chance, you need to go back and let me remind you who she was. On June 5th, of 2009, she killed her, or she actually stabbed her two daughters in the neck and called 911 and told them to hurry up and get there because one was dead and the other one was dying. Deborah Jeter took her two girls who were teenagers and took them to an abandoned home where she stabbed them. So if you get a chance, like I said, that was 2009. In 2010, we come here to San Antonio. Now, San Antonio is coming south of Hillsboro, Texas. It's actually a 3.5 to 4 hour drive, so it's not too far. So February 2nd of 2010, Elyse Marcel Collin stabbed and killed her 3-year-old and 1-year-old son. And she tried to commit suicide after, but it failed. What she ended up doing was she drank chemicals, cleaning chemicals, to kill herself, and it didn't work. She threw up. Then she calls 911, and she's actually waiting outside for the police to show up. When they get there, the responding police said, "What happened?" And she said, and I quote, "I killed my babies," end quote. So the officers, they kicked down the door, they went into the house. Emergency responders said that there was 2 beds side by side, and both kids were laying in the bed, covered by a blanket. A crucifix and the knife that had been used to stab each of them was laying on top. Now, she stabbed them up to 13 times each. The neighbors and people around there said she looked very dazed, like it wasn't her. So they did the interview with the police, and according to the police, actually, and here's the thing, and I've always told you that I don't really go by the interview that the police give for a final word, because they change it. And according to them, they said that she had fallen off the wagon, that she was doing drugs, she had just smoked crack, and she was coming down off of it, and she was getting ready to lose her house and lose her kids. CPS was involved. Her bills were piling up. Her husband had been deported. And all these things were going against her, and she killed her 2 kids and wanted to kill herself so that they could stay together, as opposed to them going to foster care and her losing everything. But here's the thing. Day before this happened, CPS went and checked on her to make sure that she was okay. Now, CPS was involved only because she had domestic violence from the husband. Now, he was getting deported, so she didn't have to worry about him anymore. And the CPS said they had nothing against her, that she had been clean this whole time. So why would she fall off the wagon all of a sudden? And according to friends and family, she would never hurt her 2 kids. She loved them too much. We've heard this before, where they say that they're overwhelmed, which is demon oppression. And it gets to that point where everything is against them, and they end up killing these kids, according to the police, as a way to get out from under everything, and so they don't have to deal with anything. But for me, this was a demon that jumped from Jeanette to Hope to Deborah and now to Elyse. What struck me about this case is that she actually calls 911 and turns herself in. Deborah Jeter did the same thing. Deborah Jeter calls 911 and says, "I stabbed my kids. You need to come and get them. Hurry up. One of them's dying. The other one's already dead." And so it was familiar to me that each time one of these women kill, there's a little bit more of a connection, so to speak. So when we talked about Jeanette, they talked about the dazed look in her eyes. They thought that she was doing drugs or whatever. Then Hope, they thought she was feeling overwhelmed with the kids, which isn't true to me, because now her daughter, who had the syndrome, she had been taking care of that child for 3 years, and there was no signs of her having any type of difficulties. Of course, she's going to have difficulties because the child is, different, and they're struggling or whatever. But here's the thing. The other child, Elyse, according to her teacher, said that she was doing very well in school. So if she was really having problems, then the whole family would have problems. And she wasn't. So for me, it wasn't that they were having family problems. She wasn't stressed out. She was doing what she was supposed to do. And for me, this thing took over, maybe at a time where she felt off, or because we've talked about it, where they have that thought of suicide and they end up killing the kids first and then they kill themselves. Alyssa had actually tried to commit suicide 3 times, but this was when her husband was living with her. Here's the strange part to me. If you go back and listen to one of my episodes with Audie Sanchez. Now, Audie Sanchez, I did a show about in season 1, and this was a woman that was here in San Antonio, and she killed her baby because she thought that by killing her baby, it was going to save the world. She decapitated the baby, she ate some of her toes, and she desecrated this poor kid. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up, because this has nothing to do with the pattern that I'm following. This is a completely different pattern. This is more animalistic of what Audie did. And so was Deasia Watkins, who was in Ohio, who did the same thing as Audie Sanchez. But here is the strange thing to me. In San Antonio, Audie Sanchez, she killed her baby in 2009. And in 2010, Elyse kills her daughter, her 2 sons. Elyse kills her 2 sons. And it's only 3 miles away from Audie Sanchez's home where she killed her baby. 3 miles away. What are the chances that a mother who decapitated and ate part of her baby and did all this stuff would be 3 miles away from a mother that killed her 2 kids and put a crucifix on their dead bodies, on the sheet, and killed them with a knife? You have this whole nation, this whole United States, that all this could have happened. But yet, it was 3 miles away. Remember when we did the cases of the face biter with the family annihilator? Austin Haroff lived 3 miles away from a family annihilator who killed his family. These are not random. I am not trying to find stuff to make it fit. These are things that happen. These children are killed in pairs. Is that a coincidence? Remember, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe this demon likes to get into moms that are single and kill the 2 kids, because this demon likes destroying these families. And if he can, he's going to have the moms kill themselves. This is the pattern that I'm following. So now I have a pattern of 4. We've already talked about that in depth. I wanted to talk about women who killed with scissors on the next episode. So before I do that, I want to add on to this one. On this one, just so that you can see a pattern. The last date was in 2010. In 2011, Chanthy Mayo of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on August 31st of 2011, she was 27 at this time, stabbed her 2 children, 8 and 12-year-old. She stabbed them to death. She was also found covered in blood, and she had ingested rat poison in an attempted suicide, which failed. Now, let's take it a year further. In 2012, and we did an episode on this one. Yoselin Ortega, if you go back to season 2, episode 22, I talk about Yoselin, who was a babysitter and killed the 2 children that she was supposed to be babysitting by stabbing them to death. I would go back, listen to that one, because it is strange where she stabs her own neck and severed her spine, but yet when the police showed up, she was standing up. Now, this is what I'm talking about as far as a pattern, and you can keep going on and on. All you got to do is put into Google search women that stab 2 children, not kill, but stab, because sometimes they stab 2 kids and the kids don't die. Or sometimes, they stab, 1 kid, but somebody stops them before they can stab the other. So there's so little factors here and there. But like I said, if you continue it, you can find the pattern. I've already given you the startups of this, and this is what I'm talking about as far as a pattern. So with that, do I believe this is a demon? Yes, I do. I believe this demon is jumping from women to women to women, or woman to woman, and with kids, and only stabbing 2 of the kids and trying to kill the 2 kids. So however they do it, as far as influencing, whether it's infestation or oppression or obsession or full-on possession, the thing is, it's still happening. So when you see these articles, remember, or better yet, if you see these articles, because I had trouble finding every single one of them, remember this: it's not that the woman is a bad person. It's not that she was a devil worshiper. It's not that she didn't want her kids. It was a lapse of judgment that this demon might have influenced. And because of that, she did what she did. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one. Be safe, and I'll see y'all next week. Don't forget to subscribe to the Demon Inside podcast on any podcast platform. A new episode of the Demon Inside will be released every week. Let us know what you think of the episode on any of our social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, go to the Demon Inside Podcast at gmail.com or click at the link below. We would love to hear from you. And to become a Demon Insider, go to the Demon Inside Podcast.transistor.fm. We thank you for listening and hope you will join us next week for a new Demon Inside podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. I am John Venom, and I'll see you next time, if I don't get possessed. The Demon Inside was created and written by James Porter. It is a production of Venomous Entertainment. Background music is by Lucas King. And the title song, The Demon Inside, was produced by Rice Fulber. Music and lyrics by Peter Shelley. And performed by Conjure One. All the content on this podcast is strictly the opinion of the content creator and not the organization, its affiliates, or employees.